Well, Zaina Khudr is live for us now in Akçakale, that's near Turkey's border with Syria. Let's start with the latest as this offensive rolls on. Ras Al Ain has fallen to the Turks. How significant is that?
Well, undoubtedly a significant development, a blow to the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. It wasn't an easy fight. For the past 4 days, Turkish airstrikes, artillery targeting the defenses of the SDF. And over the past 2 or 3 days, intense clashes, street-to-street fighting. So the SDF did put up resistance. It is denying that the town has fallen, but pictures are emerging from the town's city center, posted on social media by Turkey's Syrian allies, the opposition Syrian National Army. You see their fighters in the center of the town pulling down SDF flags as well as YPG flags. Of course, the YPG, the Syrian Kurdish armed group, is the backbone of the SDF, a group Turkey considers a terrorist organization. So a significant development. There are two main border towns in a stretch of territory, 120-kilometer stretch of territory along the border, which has been really the focus of the ongoing operations. The Turkish foreign minister made it clear the initial phase of this operation will be to control that 120-kilometer stretch of territory, 30 kilometers deep. Now, in some points, the Turkish army and its allies have reached the 30-kilometer mark. They've reached the M4 international highway that connects east and west Syria. The question is, will they be able to hold their ground? But if they do, they will then divide the territory, the east of the Euphrates from the west of the Euphrates, dividing really the area under the control of the SDF. So progress is being made on the ground. It is not an easy fight. And of course, there is a humanitarian crisis unfolding, with the United Nations reporting that 100,000 people have so far been displaced.
There is a lot of Western pressure coming down on Turkey right now. How is Turkey dealing with that, Zaina?
Yes, pressure, threats, criticism. The United States saying that they're going to impose economic sanctions if their red lines are broken by the Turkish government in this offensive. But Turkey is putting on a very brave face, saying that this operation will continue. This is about our national security interests. And President Erdogan yesterday made it quite clear that this operation is not going to stop until the YPG moves 30 kilometers from the border with Turkey, so reaching that M4 highway. But what he didn't say is how many kilometers on the border that they should leave from. Is it the 120 kilometer, the initial plan, or is it the 480 kilometer stretch of territory, which is the so-called safe zone that Turkey wanted to create? So the question, this 120 kilometer, 30 kilometer pocket of territory seems to be, Turkey seems to have a green light from the US because the US military withdrew from that area. But the question is, will Turkey keep pushing to take the whole safe zone, the 480 by 30 kilometer? So it's still not clear, but so far Turkey making it clear. The message from here is, no, this is not going to stop, at least for the time being.
All right, Zaina Khudr there from Akçakale, thanks for that. Let's speak now to Ege Seckin. He's in Istanbul. He's a Turkey analyst at the political risk consulting firm IHS Markit. Good to have you with us. So, first of all, how do you see the issue of Turkey-US relations? Are they on the brink of another deterioration?
That much is for sure. Relations have already deteriorated. The issue here is a fundamental contradiction in U.S. policy. For whatever reason, in 2014, the U.S. did start supporting a group that was deeply connected with the sworn enemy of a NATO ally. So the Turks really felt betrayed from day one. It is, of course, the case that now the Kurds also feel betrayed by the U.S. But it is the case also that there is this division in U.S. policy, and that has really had a negative effect on what has been a decades-long NATO alliance.
The US is now moving towards sanctions, but as far as we know, they haven't actually activated the sanctions yet. Why? Is there room for diplomacy?
Well, Mr. Trump appears to have given President Erdogan some sort of green light. He claims that they agreed on limits to this operation. We don't know if that was actually the case, and if so, what sort of limits we're talking about. It does seem the case that Trump intends to allow Turkey to proceed at least with the first phase of the operation, and in the aftermath restrain the expansion of that initial territorial pocket. But of course, we are seeing the US Congress breaking ranks with the White House, and it may well go ahead with sanctions of its own, particularly given, of course, the bipartisan animosity that Mr. Erdogan appears to really attract.
Now, the YPG, the Kurdish fighters there in Syria, they have links to the PKK, which, just to give some background for our viewers, that's a group that's seen in Turkey as a terrorist group. It has a history of doing things like putting bombs in shopping malls and so on and so forth. In your analysis, why has the US and some of the Western allies found it easy to overlook that sort of group's history?
To be fair, I don't think they've necessarily found it easy. There was a point in 2014 when the Islamic State had emerged out of nowhere, and there was a sense of urgency to deal with that problem. And the Kurds really provided a convenient ground fighting force, and they were very effective for that purpose. I think many policymakers behind that move for supporting the YPG were aware of the fundamental contradiction resulting from this. But of course, at that point, what is the case is that defeating the Islamic State and, of course, keeping it suppressed is the #1 priority.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks so much, Ege Seckin.